Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. This is Black Heart, signing Black in again, asking you to hit that share button first, then the like or subscribe button if you feel so inclined, because the message is more important than the messenger. And this message, well, this is going to be about this passport controversy. And all these brothers that are bouncing, getting passports and fitting the guck out, leaving the plantation and the matrix. And the haters, who, as Kendra D might call them, gynocrat goons and matriarchal minions, who like to hate on guys who fit the guck out this father mucker. And I'm going to go in on Minister Jap just a little bit, not out of hatred. I'm going to give him credit where it's due too, but it's anybody of that ilk that does this. Now, Minister Jap gets bitches and proves it on Instagram. I haven't seen it, but I've heard enough other people refer to it. And he goes hard on black women than anybody I've seen. And Alan Anderson also noticed this. Edward Anderson also noticed this. He goes in hard on black women than anybody else. I mean, he calls them more bitches and hoes, strags and motherfuckers than anybody else. He did a whole breakdown of the whole Boomerang movie and the music of the 90s and how it encouraged simping. And boy, was he right when I thought about it. Because see, I was coming up in the 90s. It was actually 1989 that I became old enough for women to notice me. That was also exactly when my phenotype became a liability. And I had never wanted an unfair advantage to it anyway. But, it's when I wound up having to pay a price for some other guys having had it as an unfair advantage. I'm done, man. Done with that. So, but Minister Jappa said some things about guys who travel. He says, they travel in the trick. Well, I don't support tricking. Other people don't have an issue with it. But I also understand that tricking is almost impossible to tell between a regular boyfriend-girlfriend situation, and hell, it's even impossible to tell the difference between that and a marriage to some people. Comes down to it. Similar relationship, but one's more formal than the other. Of course, one is completely better for the children. I'll admit that in a heartbeat. But the thing is that he says, he doesn't like to see brothers travel to trick, and I agree. I would kind of agree. You shouldn't have to travel to trick. I mean, but see, what I want Minister Jap to understand is that brothers who travel to trick, they find what they're looking for. Brothers who travel for girlfriends find what they're looking for, and brothers who travel for wives find what they're looking for. When brothers travel to certain parts of the world, they find what they're looking for, and they can't find it in the Matrix. And it ain't because of game. It's because they're not deceptive. It ain't because they're stupid. It's because they're just not deceptive. When you're dealing with the Western bitch, if it's Becky or Sapphire, doesn't matter. When you're dealing with her, you got to offer an unreasonable level of luxury for her to treat you well. And you have to look luxurious to her as well. And even if them two don't go together, you better find a way to make them go together. Because you have to do and be so much to impress a Western bitch that it becomes unreasonable. And there's always more, and there's always more, and there's always more, and there's always something you don't have. An angry man rightly pointed out that if you are a black man in the West, you will be judged by black women by whatever you don't have. Now, if you're a white boy in the West, nowadays you can be judged by black women without being harshly judged by what you don't have, because white boys now understand that they are having an easier time with black women than they used to have because they're white. When I was coming up, black women didn't want white boys. Now, they might like light-skinned brothers when I was a little kid, but not white boys. When I got, soon as it was 1989, they didn't want light-skinned brothers no more, except the girls were ugly. Now, if the girls were ugly, they'd take a light-skinned brother. But if they were attractive, no. No, good-looking women, mildly attractive women didn't want light-skinned brothers no more. And I was willing to accept that when I got confirmation that that's exactly what it was. I was willing to tolerate that because and I still am militant. And I got issues with them white folk. But guess what? Now white boys are able to move in. So now sisters want to sit up and say, well, we got competition from the Latina, from the white bitch. We even got competition from other men, even though most men ain't into other men. But why the hell should I have to compete with a white boy? Let's call it what the hell it is. I should not have to compete with a white boy. If that's not what you like, it's not what you like. If you want the chocolate brother, that's fine. If I'm a light-skinned man, then my competition should be from chocolate brothers. How do I have to compete with a white guy for the same woman that prefers chocolate brothers? That don't make no sense. So I can't sit up here and knock these dudes for traveling. Now, I can knock tricking for a moral and religious reason, but that's nothing personal. I can knock tricking, yeah, sure, but I can't sit up here and knock brothers who travel and don't stay put and deal with the sapphire. There ain't no reason for that. You got to be a damn fool to sit up and be willing to sit still and put up with the sapphire. If I'm not willing to leave the sapphire, then I'm a damn fool. Run from sapphire. Sapphire is a problem. Sapphire is not to be toyed with. Sapphire is not to be taken seriously either. Sapphire is to be left alone. Sapphire could actually be a good friend if you both understand that you are friends and that's it in that case. But even then, you got to make sure you got your boundaries clearly defined, because she's going to have hers clearly defined. Even then, you may have to kind of become unavailable or get busy when she winds up pregnant for another dude, because if you the homeboy, but the baby daddy ain't always there, she may, can you watch my baby? No, you know, why? I got to go out on this date. He might be a good daddy for my baby. Well, what about the actual father? Oh, he ain't there. So why you calling me? I mean, you know, why are you calling me? You didn't even try to see if I would look after your baby in exchange for you bending over. I mean, you bent over for this other cat. See, here, there you men go. Just because I slept with him don't mean I got to sleep with you. Yeah, kind of, but if you stay outright that you got this type of standard, and then I exceed the standards and you turn around and sleep with a guy that's underneath the standards, then yes, actually you do. Not because I say so, but because you already said so. You see? So, what I'm saying about the passports is this, brothers. Sometimes these guys that hate on the passport brothers are saying, well, you ain't got to talk about it and show the pictures. Just go quietly, leave quietly. There's a reason to leave quietly if you're inclined, but the reason is not what they say. There's no moral reason to leave quietly. There is a strategic one, I'll point it out, but that's it. These haters are actually going to use photographs you sent to try to generate the political will to get white zaddy government to start prosecuting pedophilia or statutory rape if it's committed by a U.S. citizen abroad. Now, they could use that. I think the UK already does, or maybe it's the US that already does. I believe it's probably the US. They will prosecute pedophilia committed abroad by US citizens, if I'm not mistaken. I could have it backwards. One of them two does it. So if they're willing to do this, if the US is already doing this, then they could probably try to build cases against brothers with US passports that are abroad and living it up with adult women. They're not going to sit up and say, well, if he was really into kids, he could do that in the U.S. They're not going to say that. And he'd have better prison conditions. They're not going to say that. What they're going to do is they're going to say, here's a U.S. citizen. We know this guy. He's one example. Y'all need to go get these bad brothers that wouldn't stay on the plantation and deal with Sapphire with an attitude. I can get bitches. Why can't he? Now, for that reason, it is a good idea to maybe not take photographs and post them. That's a good reason, even if you get married. Even if what you do is what I can agree with as a Muslim, you go abroad and get married, don't put photographs of yourself, don't put photographs of them. Even in that case, you would only want to do this if, one, you are married, so that there's sort of the laws change regarding it. Two, your wife is not capable of being mistaken for somebody underage. In that case, go ahead, send the photographs, unless you have a moral objection to the photographs themselves. Photography in general of people, and if that's the case, that's different. But if you don't have that objection, then why not? Then you could send it. But see, you have these strategic reasons to think twice before sending any photo back stateside. However, you have no moral reason to do it, because when these dudes is out here getting bitches, they're posting photographs, and these women are posing. They're not embarrassed to be seen photographed with these dudes. When I was coming up, boys, sisters might get together. If I was a friend, they would ask me to take the photos. And I didn't mind it. I like photography, actually. But that's not why they were asking a lot of times. A lot of times they were asking because then they could say, well, he was taking the photos. How could he be in the photographs? Because, again, even for friends, it could be difficult to be seen out in public with me. Now I understand it. I didn't know this at the time. And if they were truly pro-black, I don't blame them. But that's not what was going on. So in that regard, yeah, there's that strategic reason. But there is no moral reason. So you passport haters, you fuck the shuck up. We don't have a reason. As a matter of fact, we have a reason, a very practical and strategic reason, to at least make sure that even if it's not through photographs, that people know what we're dealing with abroad. We do have reasons for that. Why? Very simple. Brothers back home, the young brothers that are stuck on that plantation, need to know that there are options abroad. They need to know that not only are black American men not the most broken in the world, like what a lot of sapphires are making us seem to be, but that also the Western bitch standards by which men are judged are the worst standards in the world from which to pick a man. That is true. Don't sit up and say, well, the black American man is the worst man in the world. He's the most broken, the most dominated. Don't say that. No. What you do is you do say, okay, well, my standards and Becky's standards over there when she's judging white men. My standards are the worst standards in the world to have for a man, and Becky's are the second worst. Now, that's what you should be saying, but you ain't going to say that. So it's better for brothers to say, look, man, check this out. I'm over here. I'm in the tropics, young brother. You go ahead and you get your skill set, because and stack your bread. I'm in the tropics, young brother. I'm doing well. The women love me. Preferably, I'd like for these guys to say, I'm married to this type woman. This is how she treats me. I can treat her well. This is what goes on here. Preferably, I'd rather see those type stories. But realistically speaking, I'm aware that that's not always what's going to come back. But brothers could say, well, this is my girlfriend. Or they could say, most of them are going to say, well, I'm over here tricking off this one. But what they can say is, whatever the case, they can say that I don't have to worry about being set up for a robbery just because she's attractive and she seems interested in me. I don't have to walk around convinced that if a woman is attractive, then she can't possibly be interested in me. I can't be her type. I don't have to feel like I'm unattractive simply because I'm not in the top 10% of men for height, muscles, money, and fame. Now, this is something. And let's make something clear. There's some proof of this, too. What is the proof? Let's take the Western women that are on Instagram. They're Instagram models, booty models. They strike a few poses, they get some likes, they get people sending them money, stuff like that. Pretty much long-distance prostitution. Let's take these women that are doing this. You do not have anybody flying from abroad to the U.S. to marry any of these women. And you don't have these women flying abroad to marry any of the rich guys from elsewhere, because they ain't getting those kind of offers. The most these women can get is flown out to Dubai so that somebody will pay them money and then say, now, I'm going to hit that, and then afterwards I'm going to take a dump on you. Here's your money. That is how a lot of them get to Dubai in the first place. What you think, they're going to sit up there and pay themselves to get on an 11-hour flight from Boston to Dubai's airport? That's what you think? No, that's not how they operate. What they're going to do is they're going to get offers. Hey, look, I got a little proposition for you. They know what the game is. That's how they get to Dubai. Oh, I saw quite a few Westerners when I was there a little while ago. I spent a few days in it with my new wife. First, I was in Abu Dhabi, and that was great. I liked it. I met her other sister, her niece, and her brother-in-law. That was cool. Next time I go back, I'm going to meet some more black Emiratis. That's great. But I'm going to tell you what I don't have to deal with. I don't have to deal with being over here. And this is in a conservative country where you do not trick and you do not date. This is in one of them nations where I'm living. But I'm going to tell you what I ain't got to deal with. I don't have to sit up here and worry about if not only am I good enough, but is there a way that the women could tell that I'm good enough? I don't have to worry about that. The women here that I don't marry, it's because I don't want to, and because maybe their families would have a fit about me being foreign, not so much about me being the wrong shade or being from the wrong origin. Just not from being there, not for being from their origin. That could be an issue, but they ain't tripping for the most part. The times when I do have to interact with ladies, usually it's in business or when they have to ask a question about English, but I could tell you this, the interactions are different. We're not disrespectful of each other. Ain't no hostility. Ain't no experience of hostility here. And I don't want these women, I can tell you, because I've seen the kind of boys they raise. I'm teaching these dudes. But ain't no hatred and hostility for the most part. Certainly not just because of my origin. Certainly not just because they're embarrassed that I walked up to the counter at which they work because I got to buy something. Or because they heard me speaking English and they need to ask a question about it while there's time. It's not, it ain't nothing, the hostility's not there. And to be fair, it wasn't every interaction I had with African American women that was hostile either. It wasn't every single interaction. But let me just call it what it is. What is going on here where I am, in a conservative country, is that the rules that these women have for me, they have for other men too. That's it. That's what's going on. The rules they got for me are the same across the board. And that's all there is to it. The rules that are here for me, the rules by which I must abide, men in general must abide. What I cannot say to a woman is also the same thing that she can't say to me. And it is the same thing that other men cannot say to her. Ain't no, here you're not inferior. That's not happening. In the States, the message was clear. Nigga, you're inferior. And the way that the message was given in such a way that most brothers did not know that other brothers were getting the same message. So two men could be sitting next to each other in a classroom, not realizing that they're both being treated the exact same way by women, but they were also both made to feel like they were being treated worse because they are worse. So when brothers talk about game, let me just tell you, brothers, you already are behind. Ain't enough game in the world to deal with a vicious bitch. Ain't enough game in the world to deal with a nation of vicious bitches, or a culture of vicious bitches that expands across international borders. They're the ones with the game. You beat them at the game by simply not playing. It's already rigged. They set the game. That's why you calling it game. You understand that it's a game. But then even in their game, they sitting up here co-opting what you said. His game is weak, instead of saying he's not deceptive enough. Instead of simply saying that. Or instead of simply saying he's just not my type. On an animal level, he's not my type, so I'm going to play this dude. Here, there's none of that. Not at all. Here, even though sometimes these teenage guys might say, I can go out and meet bitches, man. And you can't go out and meet no bitches. To a certain extent, there's that talk. At the end of the day, the real truth is that none of them can. But it's the same for the women. The women can't just go out and meet dudes that easily either. It's got to be done underground, and you got to know somebody to get into these scenes if it does happen. And even then, a lot of times these scenes get busted up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's the same thing here. Here, it's pretty much level across the board. If she wants to marry you, then that's cool. If you want to marry her, then that's cool. But you ain't out here being treated like you're worse, or being told or convinced that you're just worse than every other man out there. That's not the way that works. It ain't. What the women want, they want, period. They don't want every guy, but what they want, period. It's not so arbitrary. The things you got to deal with, but it is far better here than it ever was in the States. Brothers, when you out there in them States and you listening to these gynocratic goons and these matriarchal ma'am dingoes, and I'm taking gynocratic goons from Kendra D. I want to give a shout out for coming up with them terms, matriarchal minions and gynocratic goons. When you got to listen to these passport hating brothers talk about us for traveling, let me make you understand this right off the bat. It is better abroad. It is better when you leave the West. That's the deal. And I'm not even talking about going to Europe either. No. I'm talking about when you go to other places of color, it is better. Because if they don't want you, then chances are they don't want anybody. Or they done already found who they want. They don't want nobody else. But if you want to know what it's like to be treated equally to other men by attractive women, you got to leave. That's what it takes. Because it is only in the West where you can be a normal man. You can even be on the upper end of normal, meaning you're still above the absolute middle, and you're made to feel like you're in the bottom 10% simply because you're not in the top 10%. It is only in the West where it's like that. Only there. So no, maybe you don't need to leave with a lot of photographs, brothers. but leave with noise. Leave with information. Let people know where you're going and what it's like. Passport brothers, understand this. If they have a problem with you, refer them to me, because I ain't no passport brother. I'm a passport gorilla. And I want the world to know that I'm so glad I left the plantation. I hope this has been a benefit. Blackheart, sign of blackout. Assalamu alaikum.